Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the lore of Neverwinter. Today, we're going to do a quick video on the Throne of Idris. And you might ask, who is Idris? Well, last time we came to this neighborhood, you're going to see very soon. You'll see shortly. There we go. This is the neighborhood or suburb of Neverwinter known as Ebbin Downs. And Ebbin Downs is a place that has a number of burial grounds, and then this sort of small town or suburb was charged with watching over it. And we talked about this in the last video. And what happens in the city of Neverwinter is that Lord Dagalt Neverember, who rules this Neverwinter, hears of undead that are amassing. They're rising from the graves, and they're attacking. And in fact, anyone who dies under these undead also rises as an undead. And that's not right. So Lord Neverember sends a part of some of his troops, and the worshippers of Kelimvor, who are known as Doom Guides. He sends Doom Guide Soulhearth to kind of direct this operation, and the army gets basically wiped out, except for a few holdouts who manage to survive. And so heroes, you are sent to deal with this. And what we found last time is we went to all these different barrows, and they had really cool ideas. And also there was a Kelimvorite artifact that what do we call it? We found it in this tomb of Kelimvor, and we sort of it has a really neat story about the thief turning on the party and the cleric and all this kind of things. It was a really neat, really well done story, which actually there's a free PDF for it. So if you missed that, go back, catch the last episode. And in the show notes, or in those notes, below the video, you can find the link to the PDF and get a free D&D 5e adventure off of it. But that's not where the story ends. The story does not just end with going to these different barrows and getting the parts of what's called the Deathknell Artifact. We have to actually go after the artifact itself and the Necromancer that's using it, who is called Idris. And what we're going to find here is Idris is this is a kind of interesting story that maybe could be done to a greater extent, but it isn't, which is that, Lord Neverember sends us to wipe out this Necromancer. And of course, what they're doing is evil. It's terrible. Must be stopped. But the reason that the Necromancer did what they did is actually to fight the Thayans. And that's something that sort of is an interesting story that doesn't really go anywhere. But if you're running a campaign and using these ideas, it could be really neat to face that sort of dilemma at the end where you have your foe, Idris, but your foe is doing something that is taking on another foe of yours, Thay. In fact, the biggest threat that's coming to the city of Neverwinter is Valindra Shadowmantle and the Thayan allies she has. So that's just an interesting angle there. That's the backdrop for it. And let's go into the game itself, so that we can see what is taking place. I'm going to use my cleric. My cleric is basically doing a blast of radiant energy that you can see me do, and then I can empower my weapon and I can put down a zone of radiance. It's a lot of radiant all the time. And this is the end of this part of the story, right? We're gonna go in and see what's taking place with Idris and just confront our foe. So it's classic foe confrontation. A little bit of lag there. We're gonna go out through the swamp. If you saw last time you saw this, it's really cool. Like you kind of move around and undead will rise from the swamp. Someone must have killed them recently. But in most places, if you're just gonna go through, undead will rise. But clearly, oh, they're there. They're there, you see. And they'll just all chase after. It's pretty cool. So we're gonna follow, and we'll bring up the map so you can see sort of there's a huge area to the swamp, including some areas that are used for dragon-themed encounters. And we're gonna go to the Throne of Idris. Now, what complicates the storyline here, but I think it's in a kind of fun, good way, is that not only do we have all these barrows that we went to, like a place like this, that have, rich histories that you can read, but there are also, as we saw last time, the Shadovar. So here's, that's a Deathlock White, but we have, for example, here, a Shadovar and a White. And so the Shadovar, we've talked about them a fair amount because they are a core part of the threat that is coming to Neverwinter. Not only do you have the Thayans with Valindra, but you have the remnants of the Netherese, which are an ancient, powerful civilization in the Forgotten Realms in Faerun. those that went away. There was a time when the Netherese were attacked by a horrible threat. The Farim, the Shadovar, or the Netherese escape into the realm of shadow. Those who are not destroyed, and they come back changed as the Shadovar, and they worship Shar, who is a goddess of sort of entropy and destruction. So they are actually having a strong hand in this as well. So we're going to come over here. This is the Bridge of Souls, which we summoned by doing some sort of ritual here. I guess putting in a piece of it. Looks like one of the shards of the Deathknell that we got. So I guess we use that to get into this bridge. Kind of cool. Very neat. Kind of neat little deal going on there. And you can see this whole architecture. This is very shade kind of situation, Shadovar. In fact, it looks like the realm of shadow. If you saw my video on going to the Shadowfell, you would recognize this architecture here with these sort of spikes and everything. And there they are. There's some golems that walk around, or bone golems. So those are kind of fun. You know, you can see the bone golems. They'll kind of wallop you, try to drop you to the ground, send you flying. Kind of cool. But let's make short work of them, and relatively short work of them, and head on. In fact, if we see any others, we're just going to go past them, because there are a bunch of bone golems that tend to be around this area, as you can see one there. But we want to go into this main area, but it's a cool place, and it looks very Shadowfell-ish. Idris, I don't know that Idris is actually supposed to be associated with Shar, but it's possible. So one of the fun things that we're going to get here is when we come over here, we see that there are these ghosts: adventurer rogue, adventurer fighter, and adventurer healer. And these ghosts actually end up in other parts of the game. Like when we get to Ravenloft, they're seen there. And the idea is that they came here to defeat Idris and they get wiped out, but they sort of don't super know that they're dead. And so they're discussing things and trying to look through packs. And, I'm sure a pack that raised dead scrolls in here, as if that's somehow going to work for the ghost to look it up. So they're sort of confused. And it's a little bit of a joke how the Throne of Idris ghosts appear elsewhere in the game. But there's a whole little dialogue they do talking through how they failed and were defeated by Idris and Idris's foes. So in we go. In fact, we find another body here. Which tells us further. It's placed here recently. Okay, interesting. 2 doors. You can go either way. It's gonna connect. I think one way is better than the other, but I can't remember what it is. So we're gonna blast through these. There are tons and tons of undead. I like how they position them sort of to where they can like sort of come off. Sometimes they'll leap on you. You saw it sort of leap weirdly, but the idea is that they're trying to leap on you. Sometimes they'll come out of different like caskets. They'll spring out, as you might have seen in other sections. And then you have these dire Helms who are Shadar-kai. So again, the Shadowfell shade type angle going on there. So you'll see those. The dire Helms are kind of cool. They kind of charge you and they look neat, kind of sweeping towards you. There are little areas you can explore depending which way you go, but let's just kind of go through this and capture the more important parts. If we evade any foes, so be it. I believe there's some traps around here. Some characters are good. Yeah, okay, see, I think I spotted one of them there, but yeah, there's a trap there. My friend triggered. I'm not going to worry too much about these foes because they're pretty similar ones we've had before that are kind of like ghouls and wights and things like that. But they're fun foes. They do things like raise others. This part of the game right here, this little next series of rooms, is one that actually appears in a lot of different rooms, which is sort of fun. So you get to see this a lot. We can talk to the ghostly priest. I was able to consecrate this place. It'll grant you some measure of safety. I still have some of the goods. So it's basically a store. And when the game was sort of new, you'd often fill up your inventory and be like out of slots. And so having this person here was very welcome. I should also say that you could do this as the storyline, and then it became a dungeon, the Throne of Idris. And so it was one of the dungeons back then, a fairly hard dungeon to do. and in the early days of the game, you had to kind of go through it. So you see down there, kind of cool room with these weird statues and yeah, some kind of things going on there. And there's a huge bone golem. And let's put my shield up here. The Shadar-kai type forces often release this sort of shade burst that dazes you or stuns you. Very 4th edition, and then bone golems. The game can have a lot of action denial, which isn't always fun when you get stunned and then the bone golem throws you and then he stuns you again, and it can be like several seconds of not doing anything. But that's the way it goes sometimes. These are all like rewards that at one point were cool and now are not at all, but I still can't help myself from opening a treasure chest every now and then and seeing if it's a mimic. That one is not, so that's good. Let's see, there's some bad guys that way, so we'll go this way. So the whole idea of what we're doing, we have 2 goals in this dungeon in the Throne of Idris. One, find Idris and take down Idris. Yep. The second, you see some dire helms just kind of moving by. The second is that we want to find this dire helm, which is what these dire shards, Deathknell shards, came from. So that will stop the raising of all these. Oh, that's kind of cool. They jump from up there. We can stop the undead from rising and people from being turned into undead whenever they're defeated by an undead or whenever they die. So very important. 2 things we must do. So that's the whole thing we're doing first, is where is it? Taking on all the different forces until we can do that. So plaque here. Let's see what it tells us. The Uthguard Barbarians rose up against the construction of the royal rise. Lord Meridian called for great warriors to put them down and was answered by a band of adventurers. All throughout the tomb's construction, they fought the Uthguard back, rebuking their foolish talk of curses and forgotten prophecies. So great was their zeal at this task that when Lord Meridian's time came, he devised a special reward for them. To these faithful servants, he gave the gift of eternal service and had them tombed along with him as his eternal guardians. Yeah, that's no good. But what I do like about this is it gives a voice, as a lot of the recent adventures have tried to do, to the Uthguard Barbarians, to show that they often have a complexity to them. They're not just raiding places. They often have some very wise ways, and they're just like any other peoples out there. And there's, you can call the people of Neverwinter bloodthirsty in a half second, and you'd be correct about that. So they often have a wisdom that others overlooked, and that was at their own peril. There are some gates here. I forget if we can. Lots of traps too that I'm stepping on. I think we'll end up back there. We can't open that yet. But we see there's invisible or kind of illusionary wall, and then interacting with this opens it. That's a fun example of something that I think the video game is a little silly with. It doesn't want to impede you, so you can just click on it and interact with it. But if this were a role-playing game adventure, it'd be fun to be in this room and wonder, how do we open the gate? In fact, even more fun would be if there are all these hordes of undead coming after you and you got to, quickly slip through and then reactivate it. See some traps there that we're going to avoid this time. This now looks a lot like those barrows that we saw before, so there's kind of clearly something going on there with kind of mimicking the barrows of the Uthguard Barbarians. So maybe it was, kind of placed on top of their burial grounds. And I guess we're supposed to go there, though there's more here. And oh, there's a soldier here in the background. Doomsept, that's what it's called. I forget if there's any interesting lore or anything down here. Oh, just a little treasure chest. And a soldier. Skeleton soldier. Is it a mimic? Not a mimic, too bad. I like the mimics in this game. All right, so yeah, little underground barrow kind of area. I like that idea of saying like, oh, he buried, the guy who built this place buried all of the laborers here to quote unquote reward them. Oh, and look at that, we found Tragon Wyvern's Bane, and Wyvern's Bane basically survived the initial attack. So we saw those earlier dead, and then the other body. So this is the wizard, and Idris killed them all, only I survived. And says, yeah, I can head out. Reach Idris, you must first destroy her dire helm forge. It's powered by 4 Deathknell shards. break them, and the forge will be destroyed. Apparently, it's being attacked by skeletons. Only then will you be able to enter the throne room and confront Idris. All right, cool. I'll do that. And yeah, I forget that Idris is female. There's some times I don't know if they. It's strange how often that's not referenced, and it's unclear what the gender is of the of Idris. But okay, there it said her, so Idris female. Noted. I like that idea. Skeleton pops behind you. That's kind of fun. Neat thing to do. Skeletons or undead of any kind climbing out. Oh, and there's Shadar-kai Gloomblades. More examples of the presence of forces of Shar here. Anytime undead crawl out of places, I think that's awesome. Like there was an adventure I wrote for Dwarven Forge, and it wasn't my idea. Spider. But it was an idea I was happy to run with, which was that the undead were locked, frozen in ice along the sides of the cave. And so what would happen is when the undead would as you're starting to do this ritual, the undead start breaking out and coming at you, but there's more behind them. They're all entombed in the ice. And so you get this sense of dread as more and more undead are going to come your way. It's just super fun to me. Of the 2-burst hit. Very satisfying. Go over here. Oh, a bunch of Shadar-kai. And some Dire Helms. And a Deathlock White. Up here. Coming out of the sarcophagus. Very clever. I think we can go back this way and we end up at where that gate was with the treasure chest, but we don't really need to do that. We'll instead activate this little hidden place. And that's kind of cool. Secret door. The use of secret doors is something that in Dungeons & Dragons is kind of trickier than it was. You know, we used to feel like there could be all kinds of secret doors and strange situations, and it didn't have to be sort of explained. And you didn't necessarily have to find it. And, you know, it wasn't like this sense of like, oh, you must find everything, you must be rewarded for everything. These days it's sort of like secret doors tend to be things you have to find, so then it can't be that you don't find it. I don't know, something to think about design wise. You know, what's the best way to use a secret door? Yeah, I forget what this does. I think it lets me back into a trap chamber or something. Yeah, kind of fun idea. And there are skeletons. More skeletons. Yeah. This is another kind of neat idea, you know, like once you get used to the, in fact, this can be a fun variant is, you know, okay, you find a secret door and it's based on interacting with this statue. So then you find another statue, like, yeah, okay, we got to do that. Well, maybe this time it leads to a death trap, right? Like that could be kind of interesting. Maybe it was some minor reward to make up for it. But yeah, it's a hall full of undead. All right, we continue along our way. We're almost at the throne room. Again, more things that sort of suggest that kind of Shadowfell infusion, a little secret niche in a catacomb that lets us bring about a bridge. But that means the Dire Helms are going to come our way. We'll let them come to us. Put them here. They don't fall off and die. When we were running this dungeon, a thing we would often do is start going across before it fully closes. And then it would be really funny if you like fell and died, so you just start going across and like jump it. And whenever someone died, you'd feel really dumb. All right, let's see. I got a little reward. Ooh, a scroll of life. I think there's another secret door here. Illusion? No, maybe not. Okay. Yet another 3 of these with spiked pits underneath. Look at that. Don't fall in the spike. Oh, I just barely made it. All right, so we reached the Dire Helm. Here we go. Dire Helm Forge. So that is where, I guess, it's not really clear. Something is being... Deathknell is an artifact, and it had these shards of it. I'm not sure what the Direforge is doing. Maybe that's the thing that creates like horrible energies that allow for the undead to rise. That maybe sounds right, but I thought that was the artifact too. You know, I don't know. That's the kind of thing as a DM you want to really clear up. But here we go. It's like before. We've got some Shadar-kai, and we've got the shards of... I think I already destroyed it. No, there's Deathknell shard, which I just broke. So that is, I guess, protecting that. Every time we do this, some of these dire helms come out. So we have to take them down, and then we have to fight the next group, and so on and so forth. Shard. Up, 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 up. Sort of really interesting art with these, like, sort of like weird technological like things. And yeah, every time we're gonna have dire helms come out of us. I forget if there's anything back here. Yeah, sometimes there are things like treasure chests or something like that. They're kind of fun. Neat ideas to encourage exploration of the entire map. Give them some little rewards. Put them in different areas. All right, so we've got the two along this side. There's another piece over there. Yeah, let's do another shadow, or what do you call it? Deathknell shard. And now we got multiples. I have killed 500 shadows. That's too many. So initially there's a force barrier. We cannot go this way because we've not yet destroyed the Direforge. Dire Helm Forge. So Deathknell shards, fourth one there. We take down the little bad guys who come our way. And then once we get those, we can take down the forge. See one more group of baddies up here. Oh yeah, Razvan the Forger, which is a neat idea. I like that, you know, you get to the forge and hey, there should be a special kind of foe that's in charge of it. Always a fun idea. And he's clearly some kind of Shadar-kai, a little ability to conjure stunning necrotic force type stuff. Oh, I'm totally stunned. And that's the end of Razvan the Forger. So here we go. There's the like weird forge that's, I don't know, pouring necrotic stuff into a pit, something like that. Unclear. But we're gonna shut it down. Oh, apparently I broke it. Very nice of them to put a lever. This is like one of those Dr. Doofenshmirtz devices where you just, you know, it always has a destruction button on it. But that got rid of the force fields, or whatever you want to call them, the walls of force. And we can now go to slay Idris. Again, this was at one point like very exciting and tough. Like I remember ages ago playing this, and like we'd go into this area here, and oh, we were just completely destroyed. Idris was so hard to slay. That is no longer the case. There are some little things in the side, but it's nothing big. It's like, you know, little like treasure chest or whatever off to the side sometimes. And I think monsters pop out of that, which I always like the popping out effect. You know, I am here to surprise you. But once we get up to the top, then we'll find Idris herself. Regent Idris, she starts up there, which is kind of interesting. Oh, like there's a throne's up there. You know, I don't think I ever noticed that. So she does a lot of this sort of stunning stuff. Summons skeletons to do battle with us. And zombies. Zombie hulks, which pound you into the ground. But as you can see, Idris is not particularly powerful by today's standards. This is, you know, an introductory series of adventures now. And so we can fairly easily take down Idris. Back then, those were like really cool rings, and now they're totally useless. And that's it. We have just defeated Idris. We can escape this area back to where we were. We come out the front door somehow, magically. We run past these bone golems, and we're going to go... Oop, that's the wrong way. I'm going to go turn this in to the Doom Guide Soul Hearth, who hired us in the first place. One funny thing is the bridge doesn't operate from this side, so you got to just jump down. But at least the bridge let us go in that first time. Yeah, so we'll go through the swamp and all these undead. I forget whether, oh yeah, there's a kind of little traveler guy you can visit here who tells you lore. Those are for people who miss different parts of the game. So if you saw, I have a stream where I did sort of a bunch of areas before they removed them from the game. Mountain Hotna was one of them. And so this tells us the tale of Mount Hotnow and what happens in this mountain. One of my favorite lore things about Mount Hotnow is that the year when it exploded, this 1451, there's a mistake in various books in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that does the math incorrectly on when this happened, and thus states the year when it happens, when the adventure that, whatever the adventure is, it does that math incorrectly. And then other adventures started to reference that and also were then incorrect. But speaking to designers, I'm pretty sure, I've figured it out. So there's one of the most popular blog posts I have on my blog is about when is the year that these various adventures all took place and how. Though it's sort of funny because you have kind of two answers. One is that here's when it must take place given all the data we have. And then there's the question of what did the designers really want to see happening? Like what was the year they thought we would think of when it took place? You can almost answer things two ways. That's the way it goes. So we go back to where we started with Doomguide Soulhearth. And we tell our super bulky, super armored friend what we did.
Scarce believe my ears. Idris slain and the Direhelm Forge destroyed. Your
victory is complete. Yes, you deserve thanks and praise from both the living and the dead. Ah, that is what a Kelmvrite would say.
With Idris destroyed, you have done a great deed for Ebbin Downs.
Great deed for Ebbin Downs.
Neverwinter.
But it's really cool. I mean, one thing is, this is certainly a big impact, right? Because this whole neighborhood is basically destroyed. You can see the sort of city walls around here, and then this is, outside the city walls, and you had a horde of undead being raised and coming and attacking, and we prevented that. So now we can go back to town. We go to Neverwinter itself and talk to our boss, Sergeant Knox, who often gives us quests. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you in stream. So we're gonna go back and hand this in. Oh, by the way, it's the Festival of Lanterns taking place. So this is kind of fun. I thought about doing a lore stream on this, and if there's, if someone's interested, let me know and I'll do that. But it's basically based on the show culture and envoys coming to kind of celebrate the Festival of Lanterns. That's based on real world Chinese and Asian holidays and festivals.
Protectors Enclave needs your help.
So we go to Sergeant Knox, we tell him all that we did, shutting down the Idris and her engine, and then we get a minor quest to do, which is basically just to kind of go and learn some things about aspects of the game, because this is all an introductory adventure meant to teach you sort of how to do things, and you get a flail snow mount and some other fun things as a result of that. That's really everything. That is the conclusion of Ebbin Downs and the tale of Idris, the Necromancer that tried to oppose. Yeah, I love the snail mount. This one is a variant color. The best thing, so I like flail snails. Flail snail lore. They come from the original book Fiend Folio back in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons D&D days, and they have various interesting properties like reflecting spells back at you. 5th edition put them in when they were building the Tomb of Annihilation adventure, or maybe it's even in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. I think it might be in Mordenkainen's. But one of the fun things is when you press the space bar, every mount in the game will do something interesting. And here I release a bunch of slime and then I swirl around like that. And when you go, around, you leave this sort of slime trail behind you, which is really hilarious. So I love the flail snail mount. It's one of my favorites. I keep hoping that they'll either give me a flump companion or a flump mount. I don't exactly know how you'd go on a mount, but there have been other balloon type things, so maybe they'll, like 2 flumps holding you aloft. I don't know. Who knows? But I want to see a flump mount or flump companion someday. Yeah, so that's it. There has recently been a addition to the storyline that we were following before, based on Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. So I will cover that in a separate stream to talk about that, because it's pretty neat stuff. I like what they've done with the story there. But that'll be for a different stream, a different time. Thanks, and yeah, keep enjoying the flumps.